The deeper layer of skin is the dermis. The dermis is made up of two sublayers. The papillary layer, which is just underneath the epidermis, just deep to the epidermis. It's a thinner layer. And the bulk of the dermis is the reticular layer. I want to go over the different types of tissue in each of the layers. What I didn't mention on the last video, the epidermis is made up of stratified squamous epithelia. The papillary layer is made up of areolar connective tissue proper. Now you can see the papillary layer, if you take the epidermis off, consists of all these little bumps. Each bump is a papilla, which gives the name of the papillary layer. Because this layer is loose, remember that areolar connective tissue is a loose type of connective tissue proper, we can have cells patrolling the area to get rid of infections. The reticular layer, which is deeper, is not made up of reticular tissue like the name might imply. However, it's made up of irregular dense connective tissue proper. This gives the dermis its strength in all directions. You can also see in the dermis we have the hair follicles, we have glands like sebaceous glands, which are oil glands, we have sweat glands, we have sensory receptors. We're going to go through a lot of these structures in the upcoming slides. And the third layer of tissue deep is the hypodermis, also called the subcutaneous layer, which is not a skin layer. However, it is the third layer of tissue that we run into from the surface. It's made up mostly of adipose tissue, like you can see in yellow, but there's also blood vessels running through there. These are the sensory receptors that exist in skin that you should be aware of. There are 5 different types. The first type, Merkel disc or a Merkel cell, we saw in the previous video because they're found in the epidermis. We don't see any pictured here. The rest of the sensory receptors in the skin could be found in the dermis, some even in the hypodermis as well. But Mesner or tactile corpuscles, also for light touch, just like Merkel discs are found in the papilla, in the papillary layer of the dermis. As we go deeper, we can see these bulbs that have layers, which are found either in the hypodermis. They can also be found up in the dermis. Those are called Pacinian or lamellar corpuscles. Lamellar means layered. Since they're deeper into the dermis and into the hypodermis, they sense deep pressure and vibration. We can see some free nerve endings, sometimes called nociceptors. They're mostly for pain and temperature. And Ruffini corpuscles, which are found in the dermis. They're sensitive to stimuli like stretch. So here are the 5 sensory receptors you should be aware of, what they sense, and their location. We mentioned in the first video that melanocytes create a pigment in the epidermis that gives skin its color. The pigment that the melanocytes produce is called melanin, which protects the skin from UV light. That is the primary pigment of the skin. There are also some secondary pigments that may or may not have an effect on color of skin and sometimes are temporary, like carotene, which is an orange-yellow color that you would get through your diet, and hemoglobin, which is a pigment that is red in your blood cells, your red blood cells. The more blood there is in the dermis, the redder the pigment can be on the skin. Someone can get flushed, or if someone is hot, you may see redness to the skin, and that's due to the hemoglobin which is the pigment in the blood.